Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 10 in French. It's the future tense or le futur simple. We're going to learn about it and learn how it is different from le futur proche, which was the last lesson 9. And our goal by the end of this video is to correctly use le futur simple when writing and or speaking. So before we actually begin, I want to let you know that le futur simple in English is like I will. So for example, I will eat. And le futur proche, like we talked about in the last lesson, is I am going to. So I am going to eat. There's a big difference between saying I'm going to eat and I will eat. I am going to eat is more closer to the present, so it's the near future tense, like we talked about in the last lesson. And I will eat is further away from the present. It's not something that's going to happen probably immediately, which is hence the future tense. So that's just the difference between these two. And I know sometimes in English even, some people make a mistake and they use one when in reality they mean something else. So if they're saying I will eat and they're going to eat in like 2 minutes, it's grammatically technically incorrect. You could still say it still makes sense, but it's more preferable to say I'm going to eat when you're going to eat in like 2 minutes. But technically in French, we use le futur proche sometimes, and other times we use le futur simple, depending on whichever one makes sense, based on the context you're using and when you're talking about it. So let's get started with Partie 1, c'est les verbes réguliers. On utilise le futur simple pour décrire les actions qui vont se passer dans le futur ou à l'avenir. À l'avenir is the exact same thing as dans le futur. I just put it there so in case you don't know what à l'avenir means, it's a new vocabulary, a new word for you. You just know I mean dans le futur. But we technically use the future tense to describe actions that are going to happen in the future. And it's very easy. C'est très facile, especially for the regular ones. All you need is the infinitive of that verb you want to use and add the endings, ou les terminaisons. And the endings are similar to what we've seen in other tenses. So je would be AI, tu AS, il a langue would be an A, nous would be ONS, vous would be EZ or EZ, and il, elle pluriel would be ONT. So don't confuse that with ENT, it's ONT for futur simple. Like I mentioned earlier, in French, it's going to be just one word. So, for example, when we get to this example with parler, it's going to be je parlerai. But in English, we use two words such as I will and then the verb. So like I will speak or I will eat, I will sleep, whatever. So here with we're going to practice with the verb parler because it's an ER regular verb. So you're just going to copy the word parler and then you're going to add the infinitive or not the infinitive, you're going to add the ending based on je. So it's going to be je parlerai, tu parleras avec un S, il a langue qui parlera sans S, so without an S, just a, nous parlerons, vous parlerez, et il et pluriel parleront. And here I have choisi as an example of a verb, an IR verb, a regular IR verb. So it's going to be je choisirai, tu choisiras, il a langue qui choisira sans S, juste avec un A. Nous choisirons, vous choisirez, ils, elles choisiront avec O and T. Et puis ici, c'est rendre. This is an example of a regular verb ending with an R-E. So it's je rendrai, tu rendras, il a langue qui rendra, nous rendrons, vous rendrez, il, elle, pluriel rendra. And I just made a note here, any word that ends with an E, so like R-E, any verb that ends with an E, you're going to have to take the E off. So for example, here, rendre is really with R-E-N-D-R-E, but we have to change it without an E when we're talking about le futur simple. So that is the first couple of things, and the stem always ends in R, as you can see. Okay, so you have to remember it. Parler, ER verb, R. IR verb ends with an R, and RE, you have to take off the E to leave it with R. Partie de l'inversion. So if you want to ask a question in the future tense with inversion of the subjects using the subjects il, elle, and en, you're going to have to use what we call the T bridge. So for example, Jouera-t-elle, will she travel? That's how we say it in English. So because here is an A for voyagera and Elles starts with an E, another vowel. You can't have two vowels side by side in French, so you're going to have to use that T bridge to, put a consonant in between them and break that long vowel sound. Since it's not Voyagera-elle, no, that's wrong. It's going to be Voyagera-t-elle. And same thing, for example, with il, say you're using the verb parler, so it's going to be like parlera-t-il. And for attendre, it would be attendra-t-on. It's not going to be attendra-on. That's incorrect. It's going to be attendra-t-on. And just practice here. So this is practice for part 1, right here, regular verbs, and part 2, the inversion. So I'll put the answers to those practice questions in the description box. Partie 3, les verbes irréguliers. So for irregular verbs, you have to memorize them. So il faut mémoriser les radicaux et puis ajouter des terminaisons. So by radicaux, I mean the radical. The radical is also known as the prefix in English. So for example, for aller, the prefix or the radical is ir, ir. And if you're going to use it with je, it would be j'irai. So you have to memorize that aller is ir. And then you're going to have to add the endings, which at this point you would know. So for je, it would be AI. So I'm just going to quickly go over these, and there are many more. This is just a small list, but there are many more, and you can copy these down or take a screenshot or, just to practice with them. So aller would be ir, comme j'irai, avoir or, comme tu auras, courir, cours, like C-O-U-R-R, comme il courra. Devoir, to have to, is D-E-V-R, comme qui devra. Être would become S-E-R, nous serons. Faire is F-E-R, vous ferez. Pouvoir, P-O-U-R-R, comme ils pourront. Recevoir, R-E-C-E-V-R, comme elles recevront. Savoir, S-A-U-R, comme je saurai. Tenir would become T-I-E-N-D-R as a prefix, like tu tiendras. Venir, V-I-E-N-D-R, comme elle viendra. Voir, V-E-R-R, comme on verra. And vouloir would become V-O-U-T-R, comme il voudra. So those are just some of them, and using those, you can also help fill in the blanks here for the practice questions. I have 4 up here. I did one of them with you, so comme il pleuvoir beaucoup cet été, so it will rain a lot this summer. And it's going to become pleuvoir. The radical is P-L-E-U-V-R, and the ending for il, singular, is just a. So il pleuvra beaucoup cet été. And number 5 is kind of like a challenge if you want to do it, make a sentence yourself. So yeah. That was our lesson for future tense. Lesson 10 is pretty short, and hopefully it made sense. I avoided any redundant stuff that you don't need to know, just the main points here. And yeah, it's pretty easy, and hopefully you would be able to, with more practice, you would be able to regularly use this when writing and or speaking. And even identifying when someone is using it when they're speaking and when you're listening to them. So thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in the next one.